Hi, my name is Brianna Crossman, and this is my Parenthood and Children presentation. In this presentation, I will be discussing some factors to consider when to parent or not, how trends have changed over the years when it comes to parenthood, and also the advantages and disadvantages of parenting in the 21st century. So let's get started. What factors need to be considered when deciding to parent or not? So when you decide to parent, consider the following. First, make sure your child is having correct behavior. For example, if your child talks back or doesn't do a chore, make sure they understand the consequences of their actions. Second, make sure your child is listening to your directions given to him or her. So if you ask your child to go do the dishes or clean their room, make sure you go and check on their progress and then decide to parent from there. Third, make sure your child is keeping up in school. So be on top of their homework and make sure that they aren't falling behind. And if they are, just catch them back up and get them on the right track. Fourth, make sure your child is sharing with others correctly. So if your child has a friend over and they are playing with a certain toy and they aren't sharing nicely, step in and make sure that they learn how to actually share with each other. And then when not to parent would be the following. So children are being respectful by saying please, thank you, and asking for permission to do stuff like that, etc. And then also children are doing their chores or something correctly, and you don't need to step in or they do it on their own. That's when you don't need a parent. What does parenthood really mean? Well, it's the state of being a parent and the responsibilities involved, including financial and emotional and physically being involved in the children's lives. How have trends in parenthood changed? Well, mothers and fathers' roles and responsibilities have changed drastically from 1965 to 2011, as seen in the graph in the next couple of slides. Also, mothers and fathers spend their time differently than they have over the last 50 years. Fathers nowadays are doing more of the household chores, such as doing the dishes, laundry, things like that. Also, they're staying home with the kids and working from home, so doing more of the women's job would have been back in the day. Also, the mothers nowadays are working away from the home, they're paying more of the bills, and then they're trying to balance out the family. So doing more of the man's job would have been back in the day as well. Now, as you notice that the roles have changed over the years, and men and women are switching positions in the house. So the woman is becoming more of the head of the house rather than the man becoming more of the head of the house. Another factor that the trends of parenthood have changed is that the sexual pressure amongst young people have a huge impact now that it's starting at a younger age, as seen in the next slide. Now, who really feels the sexual pressure? As you can see, there are a couple major points in this photo. The first one is that there's a 17% of all teens from the ages 13 to 17 that feel the sexual pressure. But what's interesting is that if you just look at the teen girls during the ages of 13 to 17, there's a jump to 21%. This is probably happening because girls' bodies are starting to change during these ages, and the boys are starting to take notice of that, and then they're trying to put the girls in situations where they feel the sexual pressure. Now, if you look at just the boys of these ages, it's at 12%, which is very low compared to the girls. Now, I want you to ask yourself, why do you think that is? Why are teen girls feeling more of the sexual pressure than the teen boys? Now, if you only look at the girls that are ages of 17, there is a jump to 24%. This is probably because nowadays all 17-year-olds want to feel hot or feel pretty, so they dress differently, they act differently, which then leads them to feeling uncomfortable in different situations, which then can cause the sexual pressure. Nowadays, there's a way you can stop this. So if the parent can see the different actions that their child is making, you can take the appropriate action to stop it. So, for example, if your child is wearing something that's inappropriate, you can teach them what is an appropriate clothing to wear, because you can still dress cute and have more clothing on your body rather than dressing all provocative and trying to get boys' attentions that way, which then is causing more of the sexual pressure for older girls. This is the graph that is showing the difference between men and women from 1965 to 2011, and how the gaps are very significant in how our generation has changed. In the first graph, this is showing the differences between mothers and fathers in 1965. Also, this is the average numbers per week spent on the paid work, household work, and on childcare. So the mother spent a total of 8 hours on being paid to work, spent 32 hours doing household work, and 10 hours on childcare, which was a grand total of 51 hours per week doing all of these things. Now, the father spent 42 hours on being paid to work, spent 4 hours on doing household work, and spent 2.5 hours on childcare, which is a total amount of 49 hours per week. Now, the second graph is showing the difference between mothers and fathers in 2011. The mother spent 21 hours on being paid to work, spent 18 hours on household work, and 14 hours on childcare, which is a total of 53 hours per week. Now, the father spent 37 hours on being paid to work, spent 10 hours on household work, and spent 7 hours on childcare, which is 54 hours per week. As you see, the differences in the women have been working more in 2011 than 1965. And also, the fathers are taking care of their child more. As you can see, from 1965, it was only 2.5 hours, and then in 2011, it was 7. So there's a big gap from there. Now, let's look on the parenting advantages and disadvantages in the 21st century. First, I'm going to talk about the advantages of parenting in the 21st century. Number 1, parental involvement. This includes helping the teens avoid risks such as smoking, drinking, drug use, sexual activity, violence, and suicide attempts, while increasing their educational achievements. This helps the child know that the parent wants to be in their life. Number 2, formal knowledge about child raising techniques and child development. We have access to so many websites, books, and grandparents that we understand how to raise our child. Number 3, the parental bond. This helps teens face difficult decisions and serious risks. With having this bond, it helps the child know that they're not alone in any situation. And number 4, fathers are more emotionally involved than several decades ago. Second, the disadvantages of parenting in the 21st century. Number 1 is technology. There's so many texting, phones in general, computers, social media sites, etc., that have kids not wanting to listen or do anything their parents say. Number 2 is when children hang out with the wrong group of friends and then they start becoming more aggressive or just disobeying to all the rules that have been established by the parents. And then number 3 is scheduling issues. This is where everyone in the household isn't in the same room at the same time. When mom's working or doing other household work, then dad's working or fixing something, and then the kids have homework or they have an extracurricular activity that's after school, or even if they have a job. Not everyone is in the same room at the same time for like a family dinner, maybe, or an important event. This is some of the disadvantages of parenting. Now, here are some of the references that I used for this presentation. Thanks for watching and have a great day. The end.